Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Drop Your Noise. So, coming around, I interviewed one of these amazing, fabulous women. Roshanak is a very thoughtful, bridges humanity, weaves it into her personality, into her work, and she brings a very fresh perspective on how do we work with to overcome our fears. How do we work with sense of humor in all of this, and how important is that in negotiations? She brings everything that she has learned and embraced throughout her life, and she's drawn on her inspiration from her family, especially her mom and her dad, and bring it into her world and into her career. And I found myself really seeing things with a fresh perspective. She really brightened up that surrealness I had found myself in at the time of recording this. I am so pleased to be sharing our conversation with you. And as always, I always look forward to hear your thoughts around it. What have you gained from it? And it's so important as we have these conversations because your input matters as well. Enjoys this week's episode. If we had to drop our noise about one thing, what would you think it should be?
Our fears is the fear of not being good enough, the fear of this is also a post that is one of those things that my mom left on my thread on Facebook, which is still there despite her not being there, which is what if I fall? But then basically my mom's reply was, but darling, what if you fly? Which is
I love that. Is that was one of her messages to you on Facebook?
Yeah, I still have it. It's kind of it's just a picture and says, but darling, what if you fly? Like, it's really the sense of never be blocked by your fear. And I think this is, again, a moment, right? Everyone has got some uncertainty about future, but in practice, it's all about canceling the noise of these fears that block you and can get you out of your line. Because if you start listening to all the things that can go wrong and all the things that are potential, blocker to your dreams or to your way or what you want to be or what you want to say, then in reality you're not giving voice to what shall be instead the focus and where you want your attention to be. And a professor at LBS started his course to us saying basically the future belongs really to those that are able to set the attention where it needs to be.
I'm amazed, and I'm not amazed because you come from very interesting background. Because I remember, to give context to everybody, I remember going to the same summit as you did. We went for a conference. I hadn't met you. And I think about 4 people separately came up to me and said, I have to meet you. And I was like, really? But if I asked them why, they couldn't tell me why. And then we had a conversation. And your story was just phenomenally interesting. You made me laugh from start to end. But to give a context, how did you get to Italy?
That's an interesting one. It's also very much female-dominated story, I guess, because I come from a family with 2 older sisters and a very powerful mom. So poor my dad was definitely a minority. And my mom decided at some point that she wanted us to have a bright future in terms of career and independency. And so she thought that the best place to pursue our career and way to economic independency was Italy, because my parents did their PhD in Rome when they were much younger and they traveled a bit the world. But let's say that Italy was the closest to their culture of belonging, very warm, Mediterranean, very fun. And I'm happy that this is something you notice ahead. I think that having sense of humor and really self-irony, I think it's very, very important. It's something that my parents taught us from the very beginning, not to take ourselves very seriously, because we are human. So it's not we don't have anything to take ourselves seriously. We can be here today, not tomorrow. But Yeah. Anyway, so we grew up in Italy with my family that moved when my parents were almost in their 50s, so quite late for them. But at the time I
Mm.
was a kid. And yeah, I spent most of my childhood and adolescence and adulthood, I guess, in Italy. Yeah.
What was your age when you moved to Italy?
Well, I was 7. I didn't turn like, yes, I was a second year of elementary school, so still a very. I still remember it. By the way, I didn't speak
I
Italian
was
at it.
going to ask you. I was like, what was it like? Do you remember when you
Yeah, I
arrived
remember
there?
my parents. Poor things. Like honestly, vabbè, to be said, like my parents come from a very academia, strong academia background, so
Yeah.
they were professors by like nature, I guess. The how can I say that kind of interest to spreading culture or to teach to people is something that I had really big benefit from. I realize it when people try to teach you something and not good at it. You see the difference of someone that is really has got that talent, right? So before we moved to Italy, I remember that they were teaching us the Latin alphabet and trying to give us some of the wording, but they didn't want us as well to, how can I say, to be too much focused of this element of change. So to be honest, to
Okay.
some extent, I was not fully aware that we were moving or what was going to happen. It was a trip, so I just took it as a trip. And I remember that we arrived in this little town close to Venice, and it was all very weird. I just remember that. I didn't. It was a bit surreal to some extent. And one day, my mom came back home. She went out, and then she came back home, and she said, "Like, dress up. I'm bringing you to school." And I was like, I don't know which school
Wow.
was I
Okay.
going. And then when we arrived, the first thing I noticed, because I was not used to have mixed school. Like in my
Yeah.
home country, schools for female and male are separated. So I was not used to have this mix. And we were dressed also differently. So the first thing I've noticed was that there was like, I couldn't distinguish sometimes which kiddos were female and which kiddos were not because they were in Italy, they
Wow.
were all dressed with this black kind of overall, and then they had like a blue ribbon. So for me, the
Mhm.
ribbon was a feminine element, and like some of the male kids had like longer hair.
Yeah.
I was just very confused. I think it was also an element of confusion, right? You arrive in a completely different world. You don't recognize it. It's somewhere you haven't been before, and then they put you in a class, and you're just looking around, and I couldn't distinguish who was whom, and I didn't.
And the level of understanding as well, because you're learning in a different language all of a sudden, right?
What I remember was the maths. I was the strongest in the class because because in the Middle Eastern countries, and particularly in my home country, Iran, people are very strong in maths and physics. Like they tend to win a lot the Olympics. So
Mm.
I was well trained in maths. And I remember that in maths, and it didn't depend so much on the language, right? It was numbers. On that one, I was like top of top of the stuff. But when it came to language and Italian, it was really difficult because this is quite funny actually. Because I remember we arrived in Italy in February 1990, and I was basically studying the first, like basically the teacher set me to
Mhm.
study both the book for the first class and the second class. So I basically did in 1 year both the books by having kind of almost separate exams and sessions with her in the class. And honestly, I'm so grateful to this lady. She was really a humanitarian maestra, because also imagine we were the only foreign family in the whole small town. Like they didn't have any kind of experience or training for how to deal with like foreign students. But I
Wow.
think that yeah, their big help was the fact that my parents were really driven to make us get up to speed very fast. So when every day when I got back to home, I had my mom that was making me and my sister study on a constant basis at a level that was a bit extreme, I guess, high performant as a typical Iranian family can be. So when I was scared as a kid and I wanted to go to their bedroom in the evening, I
Yeah.
remember my dad used to say, "How do you say in Italian such word. So if I answered right, I could get in the room. If I didn't answer right, I had to go back. So it was quite intense, let's say.
Oh my God. Talk about the test.
No, in fact, honestly, I always have to say, like, my parents were the most, how can I say, strict teachers and professor I ever had. So if you could pass their exam, you couldn't get anywhere. It was.
You make me think. Make me think about my family and how my dad was very strict as well. And everybody used to be like, "Oh, but your dad is so strict." And now when I look back at it, I'm like, "Thank God he was." And I'm listening to your story, and I'm like, "Yeah, you got the test on it with a similar flavor on it."
Yes, indeed.
But that, yeah.
Mm.
But how did you process everything? I mean, you're young, you're 7, you're changing everything. You're changing your language. Also, how did it change the way you start thinking after a while?
The dreams, and by the way, I think that one element that my mother was always cared about, and still makes me laugh, right? Of how
Yeah.
parents can be different from each other. So at the time, I started having free access to like kids' journal, like Topolino, which is the Italian Mickey Mouse, right?
Oh yeah, okay. I do know Topolino. Yes.
Yes. And we were watching TV because that was the best thing for us. Like we could learn quite fast, right? When you're watching cartoons and stuff, you can learn fast. And that was like, we had these Japanese cartoons that were all about fighting and stuff that were not exactly like the perfect childhood cartoons. so I remember that my mom was very worried. First that like, and she told me this stuff when I was like at high school, university. She said, "Oh, Roshanak, I'm so happy that you are now like so interested in culture and so on. I was always worried that by getting in the Western culture, you were gonna just stay with the Mickey Mouse and Topolino for life." And I was like, "Come on, girl. I was at elementary school, but I had to read Dostoevsky, like a bit less, like
A bit lighter, Mom.
I mean, yes, always a bit like, but I mean, I have to say still, and it's quite interesting, like these days one gets reached by messages and like people writing emails and reaching out and asking you how you're doing and stuff like that. But people that I haven't heard really from like very, very long time ago. And it's funny because now I get the recognition of the fact that effectively that kind of education brought us so much far, like so far, because my parents had a vision of the fact that they wanted us to have all the options open and study. And like literally, I'm a big fan of high education. Like investing in education can really increase your chances to have the job that you have dreamt about, go to the countries you want to go. Like it really increases your options in life of where you can get. And to be honest, when we moved to Italy, my parents were not, how can I say, they had a good level of wealth, I have to say. But when we moved to Italy, they didn't want us to basically use all the savings or whatever. So we were not exactly treated as, how can I say, probably my older sister I've got more experience of that because I was still a kid. I didn't realize anything. I didn't care about all this stuff. But like I remember my sister saying, "You don't understand. When we were at before we moved to Italy, we had such a great lifestyle, and now like we need to be careful about how much we spend and stuff like that." But I don't know. I think that they spend the money in the right way. And also we grew up thinking, and this probably comes a bit as a surprise to my husband sometimes because he feels that I live always on designers and fashion and stuff. But the reality of the thing is, I don't care. Like tomorrow I could wear a normal t-shirt and not have anything. It's fine. Like this is not part of the values.
I agree with you. I was raised on an island in Curacao, right? So back in the 70s, 80s, life was super simple. I mean, t-shirt and a pair of shorts, you could get away with everything. And then even as you grow and you mass a lot, you get to wear much more lush stuff and everything. But you're okay. You're okay with it and you're okay without it because you remember those moments of growing up. So I can understand that completely. Yeah. And what was it like? So did you ever recognize your changing thinking? Because you must have been thinking in Iranian and then you went into Italian, right? or it happen automatically, or how, or
I
do you
think
still
I
think
dreams.
Iranian?
But even now, like, I mean, when I moved to, like, I've been working also in London for some years, and then I moved to Dubai and so on. But I think the major change for me in the language also happened when I moved to Dubai, because really I got out completely from the Italian circle somehow. And what I
Yeah.
noticed is my dreams. Like, when I start dreaming or thinking in another language, this means that your unconscious sphere is like moving from one side to another. Something comes natural. And I remember that when we moved to Italy, at some point I started dreaming in Italian. I started singing in Italian. And it just came natural to me, to be honest, because as a kid, I think you have this big advantage of not overthinking and not being blocked of not being good in how you speak, not to have the right pronunciation, to use the right words and stuff. And so it's easier just to move to another culture, or to another language, or to anything that is like you're not your primary status. But in terms of, let's say, moving to the other culture, like the changes that I've been through, to be honest, um, it's interesting because my parents have always been very intellectual and extremely open-minded. And really, I would say that they come from a place of um, humanistic culture, that you could put them anywhere, they would have had the same approach. They'd had a very deep culture, but they were not, like, how can I say, closed, or not, like, they were very curious, very
Mhm.
interested, very, like. And also my dad spent some years in London as sabbatical from his university, teaching and stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, so it's not like we were very much open. However, I would say that the imprinting from the family of origin was very, very strong until, and I always thought that this was the normal life, by the way. I always thought, okay, like, my sisters were always studying very hard. We were all kind of part of a very connected, very united family. And so for me, behaving very much as an adult when I was a teenager, in reality, getting along with my professors sometimes more than my peers, or thinking about what I was going to do, like, in 10 years or 15 years, or like having a vision about where I wanted to get to and stuff, which was, I realize it now, it was, maybe, I don't even know if it was the right way, by the way. I don't have any
But it was
strict,
your way.
this was a way I grew up.
Yeah.
But I remember that when instead I had a bit of a late adolescence, when I was like 22, 23, and I suddenly discovered after my first degree level that,
Mhm.
oh, there was also a chunk of my same age people that were living in a much more university students lifestyle, much
Yeah.
lighter, much less worried about what was going to be your action now for 10 years and stuff like that. And that's where I kind of had a bit of a more distant life from my parents, and probably at the time provoked a bit of a, how can I say, a bit of a crash, because I think that that's where your identity, like, for me, that was the point where, a bit by extremes, I kind of was trying to navigate by
Yeah.
doing different type of choices from what were the right things to do, the right things to, how to be the perfect daughter, how to be the perfect sister, and da da da. So, and that's where I think, like, literally for me was the my 20s, where I experimented a lot in being more in the Western culture, and like living in a different way from what I was used to,
Mhm.
uh, and absorbing much more of the culture. To be honest, it's interesting because I think also physically, I think it impacted me in the sense that before my 20s, nobody would have thought, like, you would, and people would understand that I am Middle Eastern. There was something that would create that exotic element.
Yeah.
Well, after my 20s, even when I went back to my home country, people felt I am a foreigner. So I don't know. It's a very strange theory, I know, but
I understand where you're coming from, because look, I'm born and raised in the Caribbean. So I am Dutch by passport, Indian
wow.
by when I go home. And then, but if I ended, when I went to India, I was like, I am not Indian. Because people would be like, they'd be like, you're not really Indian. And, they'd call you a foreigner, and you're trying to convince others that you're Indian. And then you go to Netherlands, and then you really know you're not Dutch. And you're just like, well, where do I fit into all of this? So when you're talking about that experimenting side, I had in college, I became very aware that how not Indian I was, because I was hanging around with the community from India, and a lot of the times I found myself going, "Oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't understand that." And to me, it was also very defining to identity, and that's what it sounded like for you as well. So
Yeah, and yeah, and you never know what exactly. Like I don't know. Whenever they ask me and they say, "No, come on back, you're Italian," I'm like, "No, I'm not." Like I'm also an Italian citizen, but this doesn't mean like I don't know. I mean, it's funny. Like my answer sometimes is I belong to the culture of my parents, which is a
I
non-answer.
belong. No, it's not, but it's interesting. I belong to the culture of my parents. You got to explain this. I actually like it, but I don't know why I like it. But you can explain it to me. I belong to the
I don't know. I
culture.
think it's the values. Probably it's I still have this resonance of them, their voice, their thoughts, their friends. That sense of really, it's that warmth that is. I still find it in a number of people. I think I told you as well when I met you that I felt you had that kind of aura, right? That is people that have got that. It's a humanitarian sense. Is a sense of I want to leave a legacy for people. I believe in culture. I'm interested in the history of
Yeah.
human beings. Is an intellectual but very, how can I say, my parents have been extremely approachable people that adapted to living in a huge metropole like Tehran to a different type of metropole like Rome. They lived in London. They lived in small town of 10,000 people in Italy. And they
Yeah.
have been always loved by the people around until after my mom unfortunately passed away 2 years ago. Like the amount of
Right.
love and
Mm.
affection and gratefulness for that love and affection that
Mm.
people feel when you have human beings that care about you as a person and they don't use you or they don't live as an individual, right? Like that sense of um, persons that go beyond their whole destiny and what is there for them, like less materialistic vision. And I don't
Mm.
know whether it's literally as academia is a artistic is a what it is, but I think it's something I would call a cultural heritage that is not even depending on your race, to be honest.
I wonder. I wonder if you. By I understand now what you mean by I don't. I belong to the culture of my parents, but I can't help but also think that you've gone into that as well, because it sounds to me they've traveled like you around the world. And I don't know if you feel like this, but as I've traveled to different countries, I felt that my who I am became less and less dependent on where I'm from. And if I look within and I put like a telescope or a light inside of me, there's a bit of this and there's a bit of that, because you step behind the attachment of the culture and start seeing things more universal. And it sounds to me that that is similar to what you're sharing as well. Or am I?
No, it's totally on the spot. And also being, honestly, it's a matter also of being humble. The way I approach people is literally, I just see people. I don't like, I not like, and I would always feel it's almost as you haven't achieved anything. Like for me, we have so much to learn, so much to understand. And I always see in people the things that I don't have, by the way. Like I feel the contact with the next human being is going to be a matter of like seeing how this person is better in which sense and what I can learn from this person. And I think that's the way that you have to connect with others, by being humble, because you know that you are absolutely no one in practice, because when you travel and you see how big is the world, you realize that you are effectively what we are is almost limited to the impact we can have on others people's lives.
Yeah.
and that's it. And honestly, I have to say, probably there is also an element that I'm now beyond 40 years old. And after 40, I think you also realize that first part is gone. Let's see what we do with the second one. Yes.
Wait till you get to 50s. Okay, but here's the surprising part. Okay, so this is my confession time. Whenever and this is where I have bias. Okay, this is me and my bias. Whenever I meet a lawyer, I always think that the intellectual conversation is going to be up here. And then so when everybody kept telling me I have to meet you, and we met towards the end, we exchanged cards, and then I went off, right? I loved how you put, I think it was on your LinkedIn where you wrote about enjoying having a good pizza. And I thought, okay, so this is a really cool, I was like, this is a really cool lawyer. And so how do you translate it? Because you do. I find when I speak to you, you translate and you have this joyfulness that I can't help, but I'm smiling even now. I want to smile in your presence. So how do you translate this in the whole lawyering side of life?
Oh, that's an interesting question, because I can sense like it's not something that you can, I mean, there is something in me that I cannot hide, right? Like I cannot be inauthentic. It's something that literally it's so much not me that I cannot be someone else. But what I can try is not to play jokes when in my brain there are 100 jokes coming up when the situation doesn't make any sense. I think in reality, it's, again, sense of humor and like seeing things sometimes with a twist can help the tone situation. And for a lawyer, that's very important, because I can see in a number of situations when you're negotiating particularly, and it's something that I feel is important and is part of like one of the most interesting part of my job is the negotiation element and understanding what your clients wants to. So you need to use a lot of psychology. Is strategy and psychology is not technical. Like the technical part, one shall take for granted, right? Like you should know the case law, you should know the scholarship, you should know the subject matter and whatever. In theory, you should learn this at the younger age. And some part of our job is also a bit repetitive. So I'll take that for granted. I think what is the distinction between a good lawyer and a less good lawyer is, first of all, know your weaknesses and your triggers, and don't get triggered in a situation where the other party can easily get the better hand if they can trigger those points and make you upset, make you angry, make you scared and stuff like that if you're not conscious enough to understand what's going on in that negotiation room. And the ego element for me is something that people shall literally leave outside the discussion, because it's not about you as a lawyer, it's about your client's interest. So you need to be able to manage your own ego and not feel that this is about you winning or losing. It's about what your client is going to get out of the whole situation. And for me, using the sense of humor, a lot of time is somehow unexpected also by the room. And when you make people smile, both parties realize that they shall take the whole situation in a different note. There is an element of being amicable, not wanting to offend, not wanting to abuse and suppress the other side. And I think it's a good way to connect, and it's a good way to signal to each other as well what you're trying to achieve, and where, like, there is an empathy that comes with sense of humor. Sense of humor doesn't mean offending people, doesn't mean to be like it's a, how can I say, is pulling people's leg or making them feel undermined. It can, there are situations where this can also be the case when people go beyond their path and they're really not behaving well. That's something that it is an instrument, which is better than insulting each other, right? But I think my sense of humor normally helps making something that can be also sometimes potentially boring or can be sometimes potentially heavy in something that can be also a bit joyful, because ultimately, at least in my job, that is M&A lawyer, I am there not to put two parties in a situation that they're fighting together. Is literally to build a connection between them to make a wedding, because acquisition is almost a wedding between someone that acquires an entity and a target that being acquired. And this needs, ultimately, the success of a deal is made of integration afterwards. And if this starts on the wrong feet, then it's not going to end up well. So there is so much space for being human and smiling, even when you are dealing with something that has got a lot of zeros, that you would be surprised. But I mean, I don't know, maybe there is also an element. Italians tend to be funny. I have always been grown in in places where people were also playing jokes while they were probably also like stretching each other. So I don't know, it comes a bit natural. I'm sorry if I ever offended anyone, but I don't think that's been the case.
You know, you make
Shouldn't.
me laugh. No, I don't think it should, because um, this whole week, last week, I was like, I am going, at some point in my life, I'm going to be a stand-up comedian. Because when I was working in a well-being atmosphere, half the time everyone's like, oh, you have to be positive, you have to be sweet. But the subtitles in my head were a whole different level. I was like subtitling. I had like witty comments. I was like, if I had to say this out loud, you know, it, and I wanted to do it because I needed to laugh about it. And the second thing, I put it out this week on social media, which was one of my pause cards was lighten those damn fears. And you alluded to this at the beginning about fears, you know, that you got to work with your fears. So when I think about what you do now in mergers and acquisitions, and indeed your first foot forward, there's a lot of uncertainty in that, because you are learning, you're actually in the midst between them, teaching them to trust one another as well. So I can imagine that humor eases the barriers, or eases the level of, can I trust you, or should I trust you, as
There are
such.
exceptions, by the way. Like I have had some
Okay,
sense
tell
of
me.
these are funny bit, but this is where also you realize what connects human beings, right? It has happened to me, like at least in two instances in the past week. So,
Mhm.
so
Tell
I
me.
just was it. By the way, I don't know. I think it's again is a part of the cultural element. A lot of authors in literature do incredibly nice pieces by playing with words. I really enjoy playing with words, like the assonance of words, or like changing the order of words can give a completely different meaning. Yes, it's a bit like, how can I say? There is a terminology that doesn't come, of course, in English. It's witty. Like the wit, I think it's also part. Like you need to know well the language to play around it. So yeah, I think I played one joke in a chat group, and it was in my London Business School community. And it was about, I mean, the whole thing was about the stupid thing, by the way, that it was, I didn't know that some people refer to Riyadh as Rio. I didn't know that. So I was like, I said, maybe it's a typo, like something like that. But it was funny because like sometimes in both of these chat, I saw reactions of people, and was of completely different subject matter, by the way. Like sometimes people are heavily reacting like they feel like, this is not time to play jokes, or like this is not keep the jokes for somewhere else, or like as if but it's funny because in both cases, I think one case I did the joke, another case was someone else, but both cases what I've noticed is like the collectivity that was in the chat, they all reacted to defend me, because they all felt we all need sense of humor. We need it when we have challenging situation. We need it to remind ourselves that there can be a funny angle in something that maybe is not so funny at the moment, but this helps people see things as more controllable. This makes people feel they can manage the situation, they can have fun with the situation. And once your stress comes down, you're going to be much more lucid into managing it. If you take things as like hyper serious and like you build a mountain out of things that instead they are not. So there are people that also have this type of reaction. For me, it means that they get triggered by something. Either
Yeah.
they have a yeah, they have a sense that this is personal. They feel that this is a lack of respect for what they are feeling. Is they are threatened in their, how can I say, social position or something. So it tells more about them than about you. Also because the collectivity would realize what you're talking about, and they will realize there is no negative intention at all. There is not an intention to undermine that person. But it's interesting, again, it's a sense of humor, to be
Great
honest.
telltale.
Yes, it's also an instrument that can help you understand who you have in front. Because if you play one or two jokes and you observe the reaction of the person you're talking with, you can understand if it's your person, if it's something strange about them. Also, people that don't like they have a different intention from what it appears. When you play jokes, you will realize that their mind is somewhere else, because they will say, ha, 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 ha. They're not in the flow. There is an agenda
Yeah.
behind. So never underestimate sense of
You know,
humor.
no, that, but it's so, obviously when you're saying it, I'm like going to go through my head and go, uh huh, uh huh, uh huh. And, situations pop up in your head and you go, oh, that's so true. And it is actually, when I look back on it, you're spot on, because you will always end up saying, if somebody doesn't really laugh at it or the way they are, you go, okay, next time I know what to say with this person or not what to say with this person. It kind of gives you that definition of don't cross this line. Up until here is where we can meet each other. And I do notice that then it does change your language, or the way you phrase things to that person as well. And yeah, and we underestimate humor, I find. We always think we have to be logical and very serious and very like, this is how you have to approach it. But I don't know I think of it as the shower effect. Have you ever, when you go into the shower and
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden you can think creatively?
Yeah.
I think that humor does the same thing. Like when you take the seriousness off, we can actually look at things differently. I don't know if you've seen that happen.
Totally. And I think it's very, very important, because when you are like, it's counterintuitive, right? To some extent. Some of these things,
Yeah.
I would say, like, again, as you said, like you mentioned the right thing, is like, we think that logic is what saves us and helps us solve problems. Why? While there is a reason why human beings are still better than AI, which is there is an element that is unpredictable and is not in the logic, that suddenly comes out for creativity. And it comes out when you are out of that logic, because logic, and honestly, I have to say, with my job, it's something that I have experimented. Like, I can sense that probably when I was at high school and university, my creativity was to some extent much, how can I say, richer, because I was also seeing so many different things, experimenting, like studying different things as well, like less specialized and so on. Like when we specialize, naturally we are conducted into kind of a box to some extent, right? And then how you escape that box, or you find other ways to breathe oxygen, I think
Yeah.
that's when the shower effect comes up. But that's where also, I don't know, I enjoy a lot, like seeing, like sometimes there are these memes and gifs and like jokes and pictures and things, and my husband normally hears me laughing loud somewhere, and she says, what's going on? I don't know, someone says something, and then there is all this parody about how this thing, it can be funny. And to be honest, this literally is a stress releaser, and it helps me then think much better and come up
Yeah.
with solutions. Because sometimes when you are in the same room, you just forget about things. You don't realize that there is an entire world outside, and that's not the end of the world. So, yeah, definitely, I would say it's the shower effect is something that helps. I would say also the sometimes the rain effect. If you can get out and you get a bit of weather that is unexpected, that also can have the same effect.
In my whole year of Dubai, I've only seen it rain once.
Yes, true.
Just to give you some perspective, I'm like looking outside. I'm like,
How it
I
works
see
better,
clouds,
yeah.
but no rain. um, but I find that, yeah, I think you're right. Showering and just letting it off, lightening the fears through humor. And I've never saw it as a negotiation factor in how much you can gain out of it. Like in the sense, how much realization, not gains, but realizations, and how it helps you communicate with the other person or even bring people together can do in such an intense environment as well.
Oh, maybe there is another caveat here to make, which is, again, like nobody's perfect here, no? There is also another boundary that one needs to be careful, because, again, there is an element, you were speaking about logic, and I think humor and other things go in the space of empathy too, right? So
Okay.
when you think, and why is that is important? Because sometimes you can, and there is a cultural element to it, and this is something that I really felt a lot when I came to Dubai, because here there are so many, there is so much diversity, there are so many different cultures, And there are jokes that I could easily play in Italy and everyone would understand it. But here you need to be also careful, right? You can say something that might sound the exact opposite of being an empathic person, because you have offended someone without realizing that it was going in the wrong space and it was gonna hurt someone, because there are many jokes that can appear as inappropriate, although there is no intention to offend. In practice, there are things in another culture that can be offensive. And to be honest, unfortunately, we are humans. It can happen sometimes that you kind of say something and then you realize that it went in the wrong space, because if you have that kind of EQ, you can sense the room, right? Even if someone is laughing, you can sense that maybe that didn't go in the right way. And I would normally start overthinking it of, oh, maybe he has interpreted in this way. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. And normally then I'm digging my own hole, because then I start I start trying to correct it and I say something and it's that one as well. Then I feel like, oh no. At that point, I am having an inner dialogue of like, where I am leading with this. And you start like thinking more about how it can be interpreted in a wrong way. So then you get exactly focused on that. And that's the moment that there is only one solution. Just switch off. Don't say
Press pause.
Yes. Really just stop digging your own hole. It can become too deep. Just don't.
Yeah. I noticed that here. I don't know if you have it, because I'm curious. You were talking about, and you really brought that in about being so diverse. This is the only place that you can sit in a room and it is so diverse. There's not sometimes not one culture is dominant in that room at all. So you're sitting there, and indeed, I find that it heightens my observation, because I really don't want to offend anybody.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm much more like, okay, choices of my words, or how do I navigate this? What is your biggest takeaways? If somebody asked you, okay, I'm going to Dubai, what is the one thing you want me to understand in, like negotiations, or when I'm talking to different communities, what would you tell them?
I'm not sure if this is the element, but it's the first, like the thing that is like just coming into it. I think that trust and loyalty are more important than anything else. Anything else. You can be the best in what you do. You can have the best intention, but make sure you never let people's trust down, and you are loyal to the person that deserves that loyalty, because this is an extremely rich environment, but still is a place where people would have memory. And you need to behave well with people, because that's going to be your best business card. Your human element of being considered a nice person, I think in this region is extremely important, because people care, given also the environment is not so large from a territorial perspective, right? Like compared to other countries, it's not such a huge place, and people know each other. And I think it's like your business card is really about being decent to people and respect their trust, respect their time, respect their effort, respect the opportunities that they give you. I think literally that's more important. Like whatever you want to be, although meritocracy is a very, very important element. Like I would say, this is the country that in a very short amount of time, one can grow very fast if you're bringing the right things to the table, if you are bringing value. They don't care about your nationality, your language, even consider my accent, or anything, right? Your studies or whatever. It's really about if you are bringing something that is valuable, and that will conquer you the entire space. But it's not the cutthroat approach, which we have seen in a number of Western movies like Wolf of Wall Street or whatever. That's not something that will be welcome in a place like UAE. No, that's exactly what you shouldn't ever think about. This is not a place where you can come and like just, how can I say, treat people because you are someone or you think to be someone or whatever, and like is about money or stuff like that. No, this is not that type of country. It's in reality. And this is sometimes, I think, the wrong way that people outside frame Middle East, because they think it's a lot about the business, it's a lot about the economy, and everything else is secondary. In my opinion, instead, if you want to thrive and if you want this place to be your home, you need to make sure you are a good person and you are and you have respect for the gift that you are being given and the fact that this country is hosting you in a very, very embracing and a very warm and open way. But it's expected that you are going to be treating that as a precious and important gift. It's not to be undermined. So for me, trust, loyalty, and respect are very, very important in this country.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I know you started off with trust and loyalty, but to me, if I had to break down this word that you first initially used, nice, I think it's, if I broke it down from what you're saying, is that you got to build trust. Trust builds the loyalty, and the loyalty only can come and can be encompassed if respect is given at all the different ways. I find it interesting that I didn't realize until you said it, was that the country comes with, is what you bring to the table, in the sense that from a meritocratic narrative. I hadn't seen it. And more than that, the last few days, I find myself saying the word community leadership. I've heard compassionate leadership, I've heard purposeful service leadership, but over here, what I'm seeing, and I've seen from the time that I've moved here since last year, is community leadership. It's like it's like an interdependence rather than just independence. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, I think it's interesting, by the way. When I moved to UAE in 2018, how can I say, my experience was based on very different places as well, like different also from each other. Because like Milan is a small community, to be honest, everyone knows everyone. And you will tend to have your inner circle that is your friends that maybe you know since a lifetime, a lot of it based on your colleagues. Literally, like I think my best friends still now from the time being were people that were trainees at my same time, my previous law firm. And then I lived the experience in London, where was literally instead my experience was like different nationalities were spending time together, was like small groups of people knowing each other, like normally Italians with Italians, Spanish with Spanish, French with French. We didn't see so many like English people, by the way, in London. Like I remember there was a bit of this, like it was not a easy mixing to some extent. At least this is my personal experience. Like when I joined here, I realized how instead this was a complete open mix, and you could meet a lot of different people from different nationalities. Every week I was meeting new people. Yeah. So, which is very interesting because your community is it's like an open fund. Sorry, by the way, I'm doing a bit the lawyer stuff. There are closed funds and open funds. So it's kind of...
We'll handle this one.
Yeah. No, it's basically creates this sense of it's an ever-changing, you will have certain pillars that are stable and solid and your closest people. But then you have the other ranges change all the time. And I have to say, when I joined UAE, I remember there was a lot this idea that people were like keeping in, how can I say, there were different, like, not silos, but like people were like living in different communities. But I think what I've seen with time is definitely this is not longer the case at all. Like, I think people really look for a community that they can feel belonging to. And since they're really coming to this region for living in it, like I think a lot of people I met at the beginning were saying, at the beginning, I came here with the idea of staying for 2 years or for like 1 year or 6 months, and then I stayed 20 years. I think now people are coming to stay 20 years. They're coming to stay here forever. And that is also changing the whole ecosystem, because literally I think one of the things that we have all seen also on LinkedIn that the Emirates are recognizing that expats belong to UAE now. Like they really feel part. This is their country. So that kind of leadership or like interdependence that you were mentioning, for me, is becoming more and more visible. Like how many of us now have got these groups that are made of tons of people, which before probably mainly for those that had kids, there was like school kids and stuff like that. Which I don't have kids, so I don't have that type of group. You don't know.
Me neither.
So okay, yeah. So the same. But now I have a London Business School community. I have a City Walk community. I have the firm community. Like, and sometimes they mix and match as well. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's really a sense of collectivity that is prevailing.
Okay. So when I came here, I felt drained in my creativity. Drained. I was living in London, and every time I wanted to go, people were like, "Yeah, but situation's bad." I felt drained. When I got here, I didn't want to come to Dubai. By the way, I was the opposite. I was like, "Shall I go? Why should I go? Let me go back to the Caribbean." So my friend said, "No, come here," and I was like, "Okay, I'll give it 3 months." I was like, "I'm gonna entertain it." But when I came here, I felt like my creativity went from 0 to 100 within a month. And I was in shock about it, because I was like, how did that happen? And I was trying to figure out why it was that way. And it was because you meet people from different walks of life. Every story is completely different from the next story.
Yes, honestly.
And completely constantly asking you, or invites me at least, to, "Oh, have you considered this? Or have you considered that? Have you considered this?" And then you start creating. My creativity came full blown. And then you go into these different networks, as you said, because over time you do join these networks, and you start seeing like how they are connected. But at the same time, it still feels very diverse. And I can't put my finger on it, what it is, but I wake up wanting to be a better creativity than yesterday. I want to create more than I did yesterday. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think this is like I really enjoy when you're speaking, because like I think it already gives me like it just floats me away from the billable. The difficult stuff that we have in our jobs. But this is the thing, right? Like listening to people that have got different backgrounds from yours, live a different kind of lifestyle, or they are focusing on other things, it naturally brings your brain to absorb different, to be how there is a word to define it. It impregnates from different contaminations, which is a very like that's the creativity. A lot of time comes also from mix and matching things that are existent, and they become different results, right? So when you and I speak, we come up with stuff that we probably didn't thought, each of ourselves standing in our own corner. So by the way, I have to say something that probably is completely disconnected. I love your hair. They are so beautiful. So I am taking that. I'm taking inspiration from your hair already, thinking, okay, this is how I want my hair to look like. Why I'm dyeing it. Something that probably I don't think about every day whenever I'm going to dye my hair, the hairdresser. And this I'm always like when every time I've been talking to you, I'm like thinking, wow, she's got such beautiful hair.
Talk about dropping your noise.
Yes. That's not noise. Hair are important to us. One thing,
Yeah.
even if the world is falling, the hairdresser is the most important. You should go to the hairdresser. That gives your nirvana. For me, is mindfulness.
And there you go, all my audience. This is why I like talking to you.
it's it's contamination. I was just bringing something important to the table.
Yes, you were. But you are so right. I mean, it's like you really clear out what you think. It's deconditioning. But it's a nice way. It's not like a very in your face. I actually think that this community deconditions you in a very joyful way. And it's very misunderstood, because I was one of those individuals that would go and I'd be like, oh, Dubai, because, everybody associated with the Dubai bling. They're like, oh, there you go.
Ah,
Roll your
yes.
eyes about it. But I have to say, I'm so glad to be so wrong. I am so grateful for it because I have met such hard ass working people. And I say ass because I'm loud. And not only that, I've met some seriously powerful women like yourselves. You speak you
You're
speak,
too
but
kind.
when you speak your mind, but you speak your mind with grace and discernment. And I find that is something people don't even understand what I mean, at the depth of it. You don't just speak to speak. Over here, I see a lot of women in the leadership style. They're very powerful because they think community, they think resilience, they think long term planning. And I've seen it because it's from women from all over the world. It's not just one of you, it's so many of you. And I'm in complete, in awe because this is what I would love the future generation to have. So,
Yes. Well, can I just mention one thing, which is
is it
sorry.
about my hair again?
Sorry. No,
Is
it's
it
not.
about
I
my
mean,
hair?
yes, it's
Okay.
on the topic though. Yeah, kind of.
All right.
No, I was just thinking when you were talking, right? There is something again goes into the space of creativity and something different, like not exactly like the typical lawyer or corporate stuff, right? So one signature element that people know about me normally, or it comes up in every conversation, kind of, which is a bit weird to me because I don't even think about it so much, is that I really have a passion for fashion. Like I like style, right? I like, and that's why I comment probably on the hair or like wow how like you look or whatever. But there is an element to it. So once someone told me, "I'm really really proud of you that you have made your way so well." And to be honest, again, like for me, what people tell me is almost more important what I can feel or not because it's a recognition that comes from someone that is neutral, right? And this lady that I admire a lot, by the way, she told me, "I really like the fact that you made your way and how you made it." And she mentioned like your flower dresses, your colorful dresses. And I thought, well, I didn't thought about it because I didn't even thought about the fact that I renounced to the fact of having a corporate dressing to fit the space and then to be good in that box. Because for
Mm-hmm.
me, the colors and how you dress and your taste, I like having colors around me because I don't have it naturally in my job. That is not about design or about, how can I say, like it's a different type of work, which instead,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it enriches, like it gives me that part of my human being that are in need of having something that is visual and it stimulates me because it gives me a sense of
Mm-hmm.
beauty. And I think it's important, even if it's something that is not strictly speaking connected to my job. And that's something that probably gives other people in my space the sense that it's not important how you dress as long as it's appropriate, of course, in the space where you're acting. But it
Yeah.
can also give you a bit of a color or a bit of a feminine angle in an environment that has been historically considered much more corporate male dominated. So again, if you speak about creativity in a mindset or in a work environment or whatever, when you bring something that has got that element of, I don't know, music or literature, of painting, of art or whatever, to be honest, I think you're doing also a good thing for yourself, first of all, because I feel much better when I see something beautiful. To be honest, it already gives me, and it can be beautiful as nature, it can be beautiful as a picture, it can be beautiful as speaking to a beautiful face or someone that has got something that is so nice and warm, right? So these are all things that one shall consider. That's also again goes back to what we were discussing earlier with my parents and their culture and what I belong to and so on, which is how you can bring that also in your life when maybe you are like my parents were architect and engineers and they were completely in a different space from where I work in. But somehow that heritage is something that I bring with myself everywhere. And that's why I'm saying it's not about being Iranian, Italian or whatever. It's about having passion or like love for culture and art and anything that makes your brain more happy and your soul more happy and your heart happier.
And it's almost like what you're coming back to all the way from the beginning, which is full circle, which is that is a really nice antidote to fears.
Mm-mm. True, because it's so positive. It gives you it's life, right? It's life against death. It's so like colors make you feel lively. Like when you play a joke, you feel lively. It's is an antidote to fear. You won't feel fear. One thing that all the scientists say, as human beings, we cannot have two thoughts at the same time. Like that's eventually is intrusive thoughts. But when you think about something, the negative part gets undermined. So if you're able to focus on the positive, then your fears get atoned and you're going to be more able to focus on what you want to achieve. Very true. That was a good point. Thank you for that.
No, I'm impressed because I'm like, this is like, I don't want to talk further because that's like the perfect point. What is that one thing if you had to tell the future generation women and even men actually, wanted to give them that one thing to think about going forward, what would it be?
I think it's something that doesn't get stressed. Like probably it's also so different from what my family, it's interesting after all we said. What I think is very, very important is that you choose your passions. Choose your passion in life because there's going to be challenges. There's going to be moments where things are difficult. Even if you choose the safe path, there are going to be a lot of moments where you would wonder whether you are on the right path. And the answer and your steadiness and your ability to go through, it depends on how much that thing works to you. And if you follow what you're passionate about, there are chances that you are going to be happy in life because you have chosen things that belong to you and not what makes you look good with other people and what you think that people expect from you. That's my two cents. Just follow your happiness. Of course, keep the logic of every choice comes with a prize. Every choice comes with challenges. And the more you're going to be the black sheep or choose a different journey, the more you need to be believing in that dream, the more you need to put effort into it. As long as you know what are the risks and what are going to be the challenges, I would always feel like you need to choose what you love. You need to follow what your gut tells you because that's part of your identity and all the answers will come. So don't feel the fear, feel your passion and feel the love for what you want to become and where you want to get to. That would be my advice.
What did you think about the episode? Okay, first, let me ask you this one thing. How do you use your sense of humor? And how do you use it in different environments? Could you use it in different environments? And did you ever think about it as a strategy in negotiations? I never thought about it that way. If you like this episode, please give it a follow, give it a like. It always helps us grow this podcast and reach people who could really benefit from these conversations. As always, have a good one. Till the next one, take care.